and then you went away.
I'm jealous that you did fiber arts in school. I didn't.
I went to private school. Wow, that was so shady.
Sun is coming up, are you ready to go? We can take a ride, we can take it slow. Yeah.
Welcome back to the Road to Self-Love. It's your boy Paul Fishman, self-love coach and You Do You activist, here today with Jake, I don't know your last name, from @Kenyarn. Is that your last name, Kenyarn?
No, my last name is Kenyon.
Oh.
Yeah. And so my company, Kenyarn. Everyone thinks my name is Ken, but I walked into this, like when I started this, I was like, what a clever play on my last name. And then I was like, oh.
So the thing about self-love for me is that it's honoring who you are as an individual. So I would love to know, who are you? How would you describe yourself?
I am an independent yarn dyer from Providence, Rhode Island, who kind of came onto the fiber knitting scene through actually an article on using the craft as a journey towards self-love, managing mental health and things like that. So that's kind of where I planted my roots, and then sort of grew from there.
I love that. I didn't know that about you.
Yeah.
I just knew you were a cool dude.
Yeah.
And I was like, let's have you on the show. So for a little bit of background, you love to knit. Mm-hmm. You have now a business that is about producing yarn.
Yeah.
I know nothing about knitting, although I do own one of your creations. A skein?
A skein.
Skein?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
So there's different shapes of yarn. There can be a hank or a cake or a skein.
Or a ken.
Or a ken. A skein. I should just call it skeins. But the skein is just the shape that I send it to you in. Oh. Yeah. So I used to I started making finished products to sell, and then at craft shows and small markets, and then I kind of phased out of that because I started to dye my own wool. And that's how Kenyarn got started. There was a rebranding, and that's how Kenyarn got started, and now I exclusively dye wool and then design on the side.
So you journeyed into self-love through knitting.
Yeah.
Can you tell the origin story about that?
Before I picked up knitting, I kind of feel like I was in a rut, for lack of a better term. In life, I wasn't really feeling, I was in grad school, and it was at the end of grad school, so there were a lot of things to look forward to, but I don't know that I felt like my bucket was full, I didn't feel fulfilled. And I was what sparks joy in me? What brings me real happiness that I feel in my core? And for my entire life, it had been making things for other people. During this rut, during this dark time, I had just I had been in a toxic relationship. I was finishing grad school, and I had just sort of emerged out of that, and I was sort of floundering, what am I gonna do? I picked up knitting needles with my mom. She was just try to knit, and I'm but I had crocheted before. Mm-hmm. I just felt so fulfilled by doing this. It was keeping my hands busy, and it was keeping my mind calm. Mm-hmm. And from there, I started to see that people were interested in what I was doing, and they wanted to invest and buy what I was making. The joy for me from running this business and from creating is the process itself, but it sort of feels I get my joy from making other people happy, with what I make. Do you know what I mean? It's so exciting to give someone this gift that they're going to create with, because I know how important creating is, and I'm giving people the tools to create on their own. Selling my finished products was one thing, and it felt good, but it felt it lacked something. Then when I started to dye yarn, and people were look what I made with your stuff, look how happy it makes me, look how happy it made my family member or my mom or something. It was this is what I want to do. This is what I'm passionate about. Something just clicked when I started to actually dye yarn, and it started slow, but I was realizing that I was knitting with the stuff that I was dyeing, and it was making me so much more happy, because I'm I did this. I did this.
It's so beautiful to hear that process, and also to it fulfills you because you're giving back. And I think that gets lost in the world, this idea that I continually have to remind myself that I need to show up in service, and by showing up in service, I will feel so much better than showing up demanding something, trying to receive. So let's talk a little bit about your process, because a lot of people message me and they say, hey Paul, like, how do you turn like your dreams into like a business, or like how do you take something that you enjoy doing and then like make money off of it? Like, what did that look like for you?
I think the most important thing about starting any business is making sure that you are in love with it, because it is like another human, you know, and you need to take care of that human. And it started off with a lot of trial and error, you know, like there is no straight line from point A to point B.
What?
Yeah, what? Damn it. It started small. It started doing what I loved and seeing how people responded to it, and really like presenting it to people in this slow trickle kind of, and then you find sort of what works for you. You find your rhythm.
So, but I'd love to like focus a little bit more on this whole concept of like yarn and knitting and just creating being like something that can reduce feelings of self-loathing and anxiety. Like, I feel like I'm really interested in that. So do you know, is it the science behind it, or like the research that you did? Like, what did that show?
I guess for me it was sort of feeling the actual effects when I was actually trying it out. Like fiber arts in general, I mean, as far as knitting and crocheting are concerned, they're very technical, but a lot of the magic of like a fiber art, like knitting and crocheting, is more of like the calmness that it brings, right? It's this sort of like different frequency, this different vibration. You're getting lost in like a piece that you're working on, and it brings your mind away from all of these things that you are trying so hard not to focus on, right? That is often really hard. That's what anxiety is, worrying about things we can't control, right? And knitting brings it to this place where like, look at how much control I have over this piece. And the best part about knitting is that it is like, going off of what we were talking about before about relinquishing control, about mistakes, is that, there are times when I make such a silly mistake in my knitting, and before I used to rip everything out. Like, I would rip all the stitches out back to the mistake and then fix it. And lately I have had a no rewind rule. I'm like, I'm not gonna go backwards in my progress just because of some lame little mistake. And by actively doing that, like, it was so hard like the first 3 times, but now I'm like, I made a mistake, the world will not end. And guess what? Not a single human will look at my scarf and go, what's that mistake? No.
I mean, if knitting couldn't be more relative to life, that was like, seriously, like, why go back and try and fix your mistakes? It's in the past. What was like that moment where you realized that it was better for you to release the mistake than go back and finish it?
It was a project that I had tried like 3 times to get something right on, and I did get it right, but it just wasn't looking the best. Like, I in my opinion, right? In my opinion, it was like looking a little bit sloppy. And I was like, no, I could do it better. And then I'm like, you're never gonna finish this. And I didn't finish it. And I didn't get to wear that sweater to an event because I was obsessing over my mistakes. Let the people see. The hardest part of any fiber craft is holding the piece. That's what I always say, because once you understand how to hold it and how to create tension with the yarn, then it's not really that hard at all.
Okay, I'm really nervous.
You're going up through the stitch.
Okay.
You're grabbing the yarn.
Okay.
And then you're pulling off the stitch.
So much pressure.
I dyed this yarn, P.S. everyone.
It's so beautiful.
You know, like Northern Lights, Lisa Frank, inspo.
Love Lisa.
Miss Frank, if you're nasty. All right, so.
This finger. Wait. This way. No, I don't think I did.
You did it right.
I did it?
You did it right, you just.
Fucked up.
No, so you did it. It looks great.
Okay, I'm done. I'm panicking. Thank you so much. I learned how to knit, everyone.